Take a deep breath really quick. Think about how that felt. Think about how good it felt just to breathe. The funny thing about breathing is that it's kind of like blinking. You know, when you think about blinking, you can't help but blink. We'll all be doing it now. It's the same with breathing. When you think about breathing, you have to tell yourself to breathe, like you would stop doing it if you stopped thinking about it for a second. But when you don't think about it, it's really natural. Imagine if this wasn't natural for you. Imagine if every breath you took, you had to think about. And you had to worry how long you'd be able to do that for. Today I'd like to talk to you about how organ donation and partnering with certain organizations can help you help other people breathe a little bit easier. According to the CDC, CF is a chronic, progressive, and frequently fatal genetic disease of the body's mucus glands. Cystic fibrosis primarily affects the respiratory and digestive systems in children and young adults. I grew up in an organization called Friends Cure Cystic Fibrosis. A very close family friend of
It's all right.
A very close family friend of mine was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when she was 4. And because of that, we decided to create a small organization to fundraise money in the hope that we could donate enough to Cystic Fibrosis Research Incorporated in order to find a cure. This is Gianna Rose Altano. Our hope for finding a cure was that we would find it in the time that she was alive, and that we would find it so we could save her. So at 15, I understood this disease, and I understood just how important it was to be able to find ways that they could live just a little bit longer. And ironically, that same year that I was 15, I went to the DMV, like many of you probably did. And I was getting my permit so that I could learn to get my driver's license. So at this time, I went there and there was a small box at the bottom of the page of all the forms that I was filling out. And it said, "Donate life. You have the power to save lives. As an organ donor, you can save the lives of up to 8 people. And you may save or enhance the lives of as many as 50 people as a tissue donor." I checked no on this box. And the reason that it exists was because I was scared. Because I was 15 and the thought of becoming an organ donor meant the thought of me being dead. And that was something that I wasn't ready to grasp. A few weeks after this, Gianna was admitted to the hospital. Both of her lungs were failing and she couldn't breathe. A few weeks later, she remained at the top of the donor list nationwide for a double lung transplant, something that, while rare, I've seen multiple times in the cystic fibrosis world. She never received this lung transplant, and she died one day after her 23rd birthday. She is not the only victim of this. According to the Donate Life organization, 22 people die each day because they fail to receive organ transplants, and every 10 minutes, another needed recipient is added to this list. After her death, we decided to bridge the gap, and Friends Cure Cystic Fibrosis wanted to join the Living Breath Foundation because we wanted to help people on a more personal level. This meant that we strove to provide individuals and families in California with scholarships. Their mission statement is that they wanted to alleviate stresses that can go along with living with a disease such as cystic fibrosis. So it was more personal. But this wasn't enough for me. I began to ask myself, why don't more people decide to donate their organs? How is it possible that there wasn't one MASH burger in 3 weeks at the top of the list nationwide? So an article titled, "Why Don't More People Want to Donate Their Organs?" by the Atlantic newspaper, narrowed it down to 4 basic reasons. The first is the ick factor. People don't like the idea of organ transplantation, it grosses them out. The second factor is religion. It is because they have a spiritual reason for deciding to keep their body intact and preserve it for their afterlife. The next reason is medical mistrust. This is pretty much just the idea that doctors will be less inclined to save your life if they know that you are an organ donor and they can harvest your organs for another patient. The last is the reason that I gave, and that was because people just didn't want to talk about death, and they didn't want it to be real, and so they decided to push it aside. In another article from the New York Times titled "Finding Organ Donors Concealed in Plain Sight," we find the story of a young boy named Nathan, and he was 3 years old and diagnosed with liver failure. His parents had given up pretty much all hope because they needed money and they needed support and they needed a new liver. As a last-ditch effort, they decided to proliferate his story on social media, and just bringing awareness to the people that would have otherwise never have thought of this resulted in an outcry of support. Ironically and tragically, Gianna's final gift was that she decided herself to become an organ donor with a few viable organs that she had left after her life. She viewed organ donation as a way to live on spiritually and physically and give one more gift on her time on earth. She used to refer to organ donation as extending your family tree, and she actually designed this logo. A letter here from Susan, the recipient of Gianna's kidney, to her mother says, "My name is Susan, and I received the gift of your daughter's kidney. I hope that you are not disappointed that her kidney was not given to someone younger. I have 4 children, 5 grandchildren, and 1 great-granddaughter. I have had so much and feel greedy for wanting more time with my family when your daughter had so few years. I was running out of options, and so I was thrilled when they said they had a kidney for me. I am so deeply grateful for your daughter's gift, and so is my family. How do I sufficiently say thank you for the gift of life?" Earlier this year, I went to the DMV one more time because it was time to renew my license. This time I read through it and I checked the box, yes, I would like to be an organ donor. So, as many of you can probably guess, I want you to become organ donors if you are not already. Check the box yes, or look at your license and see if it has something like this. It's different in every state, but that's ultimately, it'll say that you're a donor. You can go to donatelife.net or organdonor.gov, and it provides more information for you on how to do this. But many of you are probably organ donors already. If you're not, I suggest that you become one, but if you are, there's still more that you can do. Friends Cure Cystic Fibrosis encourages support both financially and emotionally and volunteer work, as well as the Living Breath Foundation and Cystic Fibrosis Research Incorporated. Ultimately, the best thing that you can do on an individual basis is pray for the people that suffer from these diseases, from any disease where they need an organ transplant, or donate to one of the following causes, or become an organ donor. Later today, I'd like to ask you to look at your ID and just make sure one more time. What we learned from this, in summary, is that so many people are suffering from organ failure. So many people need new organs, and so many people are perfectly capable of helping at little to no cost to them. So there's really, the only reason that you wouldn't donate is out of fear. Out of fear or out of your own beliefs, but I propose that you believe in something greater. Believe in supporting people like the young boy that needed a new liver, or people like Gianna, or people like Susan that just want a little bit more time with their families. Donating to various organizations and becoming an organ donor can help this cause, and you can genuinely make a difference as a last gift of life on earth. In the cystic fibrosis community, we have a saying, and it's more than a saying, it's really a goal for all of us. That saying is, breathe easy. So I'd like to ask all of you today to breathe easy, knowing that you're an organ donor and that you can personally do things to support the lives of so many people struggling.